To come to these kind of presentations and realizing that even out in Greencastle, Putnam County, we're doing some things right. Some of the things that were just presented, we're trying on a much smaller scale at the community and county level, and so it's nice to hear confirmation of that kind of thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce one of my county commissioners, Dave Barry. Although I'm going to be speaking about a couple of projects in Greencastle, it truly is a team effort at both the city and county level, because I do remind people that regardless of where activity takes place in a community, typically that person is going to pay county property taxes, and we have county local option income taxes in Putnam County, and so those employees, even regardless of where they're located around the county, are going to be paying those taxes in support of our efforts. I was asked to speak on asset-based economic development, and the first thing I want to talk about is our Greencastle Stellar Communities project, and this is we were one of the first communities selected for this by OCRA, INDOT, and the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. So it was a bit of an experiment both by us as a community as well as by those agencies. In Greencastle, our partners were the city, DePaul University, a wide range of community organizations, as well as the private sector, with a focus on building the next great college town. So our list of projects that we had about 30 days to develop before the application was due focused on the linkage between campus and our courthouse square. So this is our laundry list of projects that we've been working on. The first one that was completed and really allowed us to be competitive was Anderson Street. If you've been to Greencastle, DePaul is kind of buried in the middle of the community and did not have a real nice entrance in from the state highway, and so DePaul was going to pay for this out of their own pocket. They were gracious enough to turn those funds over to the city, and that was part of our local match to allow this to occur. The other thing that they did to better integrate the campus into the community was move their bookstore to the courthouse square, and they were able to add a Starbucks to that. And it's amazing how many people stop there, even some of the truck drivers that go through town. One of the elements was owner-occupied rehab. You learn a lot doing these projects. We thought a lot of the houses surrounding our downtown area and into the campus area were owner-occupied. Turns out a fair number were also rentals and did not qualify for the project. So that had us scrambling. Had we had a little longer planning time, we would have had a little better insight into that. We have grants to do major facade renovation. And when I say major, this is not paint up, fix up. There's a lot of structural work going on, a lot of energy efficiency activities, and long-term investments to preserve our heritage and community identity. In the middle of all this, we had a fire downtown. Fortunately, our fire department, along with the mutual aid companies that came to assist, contained the damage to 4 building facades, and some of these were part of the first phase of the facade work. We're fortunate that they were able to save as much as they could. These buildings are now being reconstructed, and the businesses will be moving back in this summer. The biggest issue with this project was just dealing with the insurance companies because of multiple ownership of the properties. Our first phase of streetscape was completed last fall. We've got the second phase under construction this summer. Actually started a few weeks ago, so Greencastle is well torn up. Another element that we're improving downtown is parking. Originally, we had hoped to build a parking garage. Unfortunately, our forefathers didn't size our blocks quite right for parking bays, and so after we got the cost estimates back in, it really wasn't feasible, so we've gone back to surface lots. And this is just one of those learning experiences that happened during a project of this nature. Lessons learned, the importance of planning. As I say, this was an initial program by the state agencies. There was not although they did provide a planning grant, The time frame was fairly short. Our mayor assembled a group of community leaders to serve as a steering committee, develop the applications, and so in some cases we had to use the best available information, and sometimes that wasn't as good as we thought it was when we actually went, like for example on the owner-occupied housing rehab. When we started the program, we actually went door to door to talk to property owners and found out some didn't qualify because of income restrictions, and then others were rental properties that were initially believed to be owner-occupied. The importance of patience. Basically, the first year after designation was a lot of paperwork, because although the funds were promised by the agencies, we still had to do all of the application processes that any community has to do. And then the other thing was, many of these dollars are federal dollars, so you have to do all the federal review, Section 106 review, environmental reviews, and things of that nature. I will say that the agency stepped up and did expedite some of their reviews, which helped us move things forward. INDOT especially was very helpful in getting things off the ground fairly quickly. The importance of partnerships that were developed years ago helped us pull this together, and those partnerships are proceeding into the future. The importance of being adaptable and flexible. The loft housing project, for example, has taken us a little time to get that off the ground, primarily because if we pull it off, this will be the first time ever that IHCDA has funded a project to do kind of renovations of this nature over multiple ownerships in multiple buildings in a downtown district. Their past experience has been single ownership buildings in single structures. So it's taken a lot of coordination, a lot of experimenting, and a lot of back and forth with both IHCDA as well as the property owners here locally. The context of these projects within the larger community. The rest of this has taken a lot of time and effort of city staff, myself, and many others in the community, but other activities don't stop to carry this on. So a lot of us were stretched pretty thin. We did engage some consultants to help us, but a lot of this work was done in-house. And it's also been a learning curve for both us as a community as well as the state agencies. We've figured out how to do things better, faster. We've had to take a step back, and a few times we've had to do things over, but we've learned a lot, and we continue to proceed forward. And we've also been able to rally local resources. As the project has advanced, we've pulled together other groups to help us out. For example, we've made extensive use of our Small Business Development Center that serves our community to help coach and counsel small business owners, help get some people up and running. We have a very nice meat market that opened and has been very successful, and they received a lot of counseling before they even opened from our SBDC folks. Our Ivy Tech campus also has an entrepreneurship center, and they've provided a lot of counseling to our small business community as well. So it's been a great project, a great adventure that is still ongoing. We were originally promised $19 million in funding. We'll probably end up with about 10 to 12 million as a result of a variety of changes in the projects over time. So far, the city has invested 2.3 million. We've had 4.9 million invested by the stellar agencies, 4.6 million by private sector, with more to come. And although we count this as indirect benefit, it resulted in almost $100 million in other projects throughout the community that have in some ways been leveraged by this investment of our own. So that's been kind of a quick review of the Stellar. Our goal was to take advantage of having DePauw University in the community to create the next best college town, and thereby create a great place to attract new investment, new people, and new businesses. So that's just one element of product development. We heard about workforce and talent development as part of product development, but really it's when we're out there selling our counties and our communities, We're selling an entire package: talent and workforce, quality of life and amenities, our schools and community institutions, housing, community infrastructure, utilities, transportation, our inventory of sites, and our inventory of buildings, which I'm going to focus on here. One of the nice things that has happened in the last couple years is the Indiana Economic Development Corporation has kept track of the types of inquiries they receive, and then they document this data, and then they send it out to the local economic development organizations. So from 2012 through the first quarter of 2014, about 60% of the site inquiries or search inquiries that they receive are buildings. And these can range from 25,000 square feet to several 100,000 square feet. About 20% site, and about 20% a client will say, well, if I can't find the building, send me a greenfield and we'll build something. Oftentimes these people making inquiries will specify a specific county. So if your county is the beneficiary of one of these projects, great. If your county isn't, it may have nothing to do with your county. It may simply mean that the geography isn't quite right for a particular project. Now, some are statewide, when all of us in 92 counties across the state are sending in sites to compete for a particular project. Ownership varies from lease to purchase, some with no preference. Rail access, about 28% of projects look for rail access. This has actually gone up recently as the railroads have become more competitive. Site sizes, we get documentation on a broader breakout of these, but I picked the top 4, 6 to 10 acres, about 15 requests. You kind of see the sweet spot in there, 11 to 20 and 21 to 30. And these are typical site sizes that you would find in many of the industrial parks across the state. Building size preferences, that sweet spot seems to be about 50 to 100,000 square feet. Some of those are getting a little larger, above 100,000 square feet. Interestingly, ceiling height has increased from kind of the minimum used to be about 24-foot clear. Now that's getting up to 32, 35 feet clear. A lot of that has to do with logistics and distribution and density of storage. Why a shell building? This is a conversation we had in Greencastle in 2005, 2006, and 2007, not unlike many other communities. It's really the next step up from a shovel-ready site or a virtual building. We were seeing the trend that more clients were asking for buildings. This saves about 6 to 9 months on a project. A shell building can typically be finished out in about 60 to 90 days. Takes about 9 to 12 months to build a facility from the ground up. So it can save a client a lot of time. They can get into production much quicker. And what was happening is clients were delaying their investment decisions to the very last minute. And so this continues today. And so they needed to move fast. It gives some communities an opportunity to be a step above the competition. And in a community such as Greencastle, we don't have speculative developers that you would find around Indianapolis. The Duke Realties of the world do not operate in rural Indiana. They'll operate in the Indianapolis and the Donut counties, Fort Wayne, South Bend, Evansville, but they've not come out to Putnam County yet. Someday they will. Having a facility ready and available, built to contemporary standards, is definitely an opportunity for business recruitment as well as retention. When we started to look at this in 2006 as a community, we did a lot of research. We didn't have the benefit of the IEDC data that I presented earlier. At the time, we found that 50,000 square feet seemed to be the sweet spot for a community of our size. The 24-foot clear was the industry standard at that time. No floor, so that a floor could be built to what the client needed in terms of weight, and if you needed pits or underfloor utilities. Expandable to 100,000 or more square feet. We made a conscious decision to go a little bit beyond the standard metal building so that it would have good image. We also realized there was not much available in West Central Indiana at that time. We made the decision late 2006 to move forward. We finished the building in September of 2007, and who would have guessed that we'd go into a recession and General Motors and Chrysler would both declare bankruptcy. So we had this great building. We were marketing the living daylights out of it. It was a great partnership between our redevelopment commission, Garmong Development Company, and my own organization. The city supplied the site. It was property that they had available, infrastructure, and a partial interest subsidy. Garmong did the construction, ownership. They paid the balance of the interest on the property, as well as operating costs, utilities, taxes, and insurance. We took care of marketing, tours, and various other coordination aspects of the project. So, as with most economic development organizations, we did a lot of the marketing, met with site selectors, realtors, and then did the kind of the coordination activities. Nothing out of the ordinary here other than a yeoman's effort. I believe we had some great outcomes, and I would do this again in a heartbeat. We were able to present the facility through 150 proposals. Unfortunately, many of the projects that we worked on during the recession never even materialized. We were able to lease the facility to a local company so that they could expand their operations. Completing the facility was done in such a way that if they move out after their lease expires, it still has a lot of flexibility. The property is now generating tax revenue, and we're no longer providing any kind of subsidy on the project. There are a number of other communities, and this is just a partial list, that have gone this route. Terre Haute and Vigo County, they have a couple of buildings in their industrial park. It has allowed them to introduce their community to a number of clients over the years. Johnson County and Franklin just completed a shell building there. Muncie and Delaware County has been very aggressive at this over the years, and it has allowed them to bring a number of companies to their community. Bluffton and Wells County just announced within a week or so ago that they're going to build a 200,000 square foot shell building in their community. North Vernon is working on a 50,000 square foot building. Corey Murphy, who's here, who you'll hear a little later, they have a 50,000 square foot shell building that was finished about a year ago that they've been working on. And there's a number of these around the state. And quite frankly, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is encouraging communities to take a strong look at this. Companies continue to delay their investment decisions, and by virtue of that, if you don't have something available, you may get taken off the list. Site selection is a process of elimination. So if you don't have something that matches one of the check boxes and that issue cannot be readily corrected, oftentimes you're eliminated from competition, and your community may lose out. By the same token, I have to say, building a shell building may not be the best use of local resources for a community. There may be other things that you need to look at first. There are a number of communities out in Iowa that have built shell buildings 10, 20 years ago, and they're still vacant. And I'm not picking on the state of Iowa, but because of the rural nature of that state and the isolated nature of some of those communities, there's little chance that those buildings will get filled. So it's a strategic decision that you have to weigh a lot of alternatives. So I appreciate your time. I'm always welcome to share information and talk with people. Feel free to contact me at any time.